Auto Parts. DAS Philadelphia.
5.
Sports Radio, The Gambler, an iHeart radio station. Presented by Cure Auto Insurance. You may ask,
what are the odds, right?
What are the odds? Well, that's why we're here to answer those questions.
Answer the question.
We don't care if you win or lose the game.
I don't care.
Just cover the spread. Now here's Eitan Shander.
And for 2 hours, that's really all I care about, and as should you as well, which is not covering the spread. And if you took the Philadelphia Eagles across the board, either when that thing opened up at 6.5 down to the 4.5 at times you could get it, or simply took the Eagles in a multiple money line parlay. And there were a couple that I threw out there that I played myself in which the Eagles voiding the ticket hurt, because then it was just two teams with far greater odds to win that game flat out on the money line, like Cleveland and Indianapolis for that matter. And at that point, the 2-ticket lower unit bet isn't really worth it, at least not as much as when you tied a third team into that. So I understand that a lot of people are beyond frustrated, for rightfully so, a bunch of different reasons from a football standpoint. Carson Wentz looks like he has forgotten how to throw the football, and Doug Peterson to Jim Schwartz look a mile away from what we saw with a team led by two really head coach personalities to a Super Bowl in 2017. At the same time, I'm stuck watching a football team that for 3 straight years has made the playoffs. 3 straight years has made the playoffs. And I can't write that away. I can't scoff at it. I can't ignore it. That clearly enough has worked. It's difficult to do that in the NFL year in and year out. But as we sit right here at 0-2-1 in Philadelphia, knowing that there are a couple of other teams that are winless, and yes, the Philadelphia Eagles have improved into that category where they're now winless. It's not 0-3, it's winless, meaning you still have to factor that tie. What do you mean winless? And then you look at the standings, you say, oh, okay, 0-2-1. But you have a couple of other teams that technically from a record standpoint are worse off, but at the same time know that there are a bunch of things that would work towards them flat out covering spreads, bigger spreads in which they're dogs, as well as turning things around. I don't think it's fair at all. Like the Eagles, especially without Dallas Goedert, Deshaun Jackson, knowing Jalen Reagor's out, looking at the line as a turnstile right now because of injuries, and the defense just not being anywhere near as deep as we've seen it with talent. All of that, and knowing that they play a really difficult schedule. Everybody that they, even the 2 games that's controlled by where they finished last year, they play the top of the NFC North. This is not easy. This team right now is not destined at all to make the playoffs. So even if you look at it, and we can create our own odds, hypothetically, we do that every now and again if we search around the country and even the globe on the global market to try and find something specific, and there's just nothing right now. So I'll create it myself. Eagles at 0-2-1, Minnesota at 0-3, Houston at 0-3, Atlanta at 0-3. Those are the only 4 teams that I care about that are winless right now. And I'll give you these odds, and you can think about it on your own as you can interact on the stream, twitch.tv/Shander Show, at Shander Show on Twitter. But I don't care where you put the Eagles in your own mind as far as percentage-wise, and if they're the odds-on favorite or if they're the long shot in this group. They're not going to at this point. The division aside, the division doesn't do you any good if now what you're doing is allowing an over, like that third wild card isn't designed to allow a 7-9 Eagles team that finishes second in the NFC East to get into the playoffs. That's not designed at all. What it's designed for, specifically at least, is for teams that are like 9-7, overachieving. Chicago will probably come back down to normal. And at that point, they'll finish at, at least 9-7, something like that, 8-8. And that's the team that gets in, not a 7-9 team that limps their way to the second ranking in a really bad division, a division that was awful last year and is actually worse this year. The loss to Seattle was big for the Eagles to stay alive, but you can't sell me. If you're watching the Dallas Cowboys and if you're watching Dak Prescott, who is not Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson or either of the two kids that are playing tonight, which is just must-watch television. Sit down and watch every second. Soak up every single second of it. Chew every single bite. Whatever it is, your favorite meal, piece of protein, I don't care if it's tofu, whatever it is, seasoned, cooked right, just savor every single bite of it. That's tonight. That's Monday Night Football. And yeah, I understand the two guys don't go head-to-head, but even the teams themselves and what we're coming off of last year, the expectations for both, you can't write this as far as top-level entertainment this early in the season without it being forced like we saw Houston and Kansas City to open up on that Thursday. This is legit built in, granted, because it's Monday night, but legit drama in all of it. And I understand that people are looking at this Eagles team from more of a fan perspective, and you want to fire Howie Roseman, you want to fire Doug Peterson, you want to bench Carson Wentz for Jalen Hurts. But the reality is, and we should have seen this coming, and shame on you if you didn't, and I didn't on a money line perspective, but definitely from a line standpoint of staying as far away as I possibly can. But this game was bet down 2 full points from Monday to about Friday, actually Thursday, because I was in Fox 29 about to record and looking at that line, and for a couple of hours on Thursday, a good amount, probably like 4 hours on Thursday, Fox Bet had that sucker down to 4.5. 4.5. And then you see other closed and other books jumped in on that. 4.5, 2 points, this thing jumped down. Smart money, sharps, people that get this, people that understand what's going on, refused to trust the Philadelphia Eagles to cover a touchdown spread to the point. And I thought maybe it was a matter of creating a little window, looking at like a reasonable 5-point Eagles victory, 5-6-point Eagles victory, to where you could take the Eagles at a good number there, bet them down to get them at a lower number, and then create a window with the Bengals. But it wasn't even that. It was zero trust in Carson Wentz. And you know what? That's good enough for me. I don't need to hear from, and this is no knock, this is the reality of it. There is nobody I trust more right now than the people who are eyeing this from a betting perspective. And I mean like sharp minds, smart money, people that are doing this for a living, if you will. The reason, people who are the direct reason why these books are overflowing with cash and these hotel casinos are built to the sky. That's who I trust right now. It has nothing to do. I don't care how long you played. I don't care how long you've been sitting as a fan and now a media member breaking down film. I don't care any of that. What we've been told consistently every single week, which is paid off, is that you cannot trust the Philadelphia Eagles in serious, at this point at least, favored positions. Week 1, coming in as a favorite against Washington, being bet down as the pick'em, then bet back up a little bit as the favorite before the kick. What? 3 straight weeks, this team has failed as the favorite, and they've been bet down. Only us here in Philadelphia, late in that stretch, decided to bet the Eagles as a pick'em against the Rams. But if you saw the breakdown of sharp money, it did not follow the public. The public moved that line a little bit more because they kept betting the Eagles. And I guarantee you that a lot of that public was here. Really? A pick 'em for the Eagles? They're at home. Okay, boom, I'll take them. Pound the Eagles. They're at home. Pick them. Only laying a point. I'll take them on the money line. Whatever it is. A lot of people locally, that's just what we do, fell into that trap. So I've seen enough. I've seen everything I need right now about Carson Wentz and the yips. This man has the yips. Brought this up a little bit towards the end of the network show today. This dude has the yips. I don't know how to get rid of it. I don't know what sports psychologist he needs to see. I don't know how many reps he needs to go through. I don't know. Golfers will tell you that once you have it, you're cooked. Tiger had the putting yips for a minute, and it took a long, and we're talking about like the best golfer ever, and it took him a long time to get around that. Even now, even today, as we watch Tiger struggle, and the latest, of course, missing the cut at the Open, putting. Now, granted, putting is everybody's big undoer, if you will, but it's so tough to get that back. And I don't know necessarily if you have many examples of guys who just forget how to play. Athletes, professional athletes, forget how to play and then get it back. I can tell you this, the top at their craft, the top tier, everything that's, Bo, trust me, man, you got nothing on me. 4 putts. I mean, it's the main reason, Bo 316 on Twitch, twitch.tv/Shanda Show, if you're following along the stream. It says the king of 3-putt bogeys. 3-putt bogeys. Look, you're talking about 4-putt doubles for me. So I guarantee you that it can't be as bad as it is for me. I'll tell you, it's not any worse right now than it is for the Eagles. They're not going to make the playoffs. At 0-2-1, that tie is going to do just a little bit to hurt them when it comes to draft stat. We'll mark the tape. 6-13 on a Monday, still the end of September. That tie is going to do more to hurt them than it will to help them. That tie is not going to do anything to determine whether or not they're in the playoffs. That tie is going to drop them because it's going to give them slightly, just a little bit, a better record than the team who finishes with the same amount of wins as them. And that's going to drop them in the draft order by a pick. That's what's going to happen. That's the ramifications of a tie against the lowly Bengals. Joe Burrow played really well. But again, you can't trust Carson Wentz. There was an easy prop where the two of these guys had to go over 275 each. And if you look at it, Wentz threw and completed, at least threw, more than Burrow. And it was just minimal gain. Carson Wentz struggled mightily and was a major reason why the Philadelphia Eagles lost that game. I think that's an obvious statement that is really difficult to challenge. I leave it up there not because it's mine, but because it's pretty much a collective opinion by a lot of people who watch that game. With that said, think about now the spillover of it. You go into a game across the country against the Niners. The Niners are down everybody, but they're the deepest team in the NFL. They prove that every time, no matter who goes down. Even Garoppolo, as we've seen now 2 times in 2 years, it doesn't matter. They're really well coached, and they're super deep, and just doesn't matter. So now we expect Carson Wentz, who has been just god-awful for 3 straight weeks, miserable to the point, again, where you're talking about a really good putter or driver, somebody really good with their irons, whatever it is, their strength. Carson was fantastic in 2017 and last year, those 2 years specific, fantastic at being able to create and extend, and also really good awareness of what was going on. Now, granted, he made some mistakes with an interception or two, but not many. The interceptions, that's what's different this year. Fumbling the football has been a problem since day one. Back in college, it's been a problem. So you can't be shocked at Carson Wentz still fumbling the football. You can be upset about it. You can be disgusted by it, but you can't be shocked by it. You can be shocked, and I think rightfully so, that all of a sudden Carson Wentz has decided to just throw interception after interception. And some of these decisions, even the tip ball, was going to go to a guy in triple coverage, and they're questionable. He's making questionable decisions under fire, where when we saw him at his best in 2017, and to a lesser extent, and it was only because there were lesser talent around him in 2019, we saw a guy who was able to handle a ton, everything thrown at him. And now we don't. Now we don't see that. And you can't factor this in to any real bets when it comes to Carson Wentz. It's got to the point where I think I'm just staying away. Joe Burrow did his job. They went to overtime. and Carson Wentz couldn't get over 250. 275. You think, well, sign me up for overtime. 250 each. Not even like 250 each and a touchdown. Not even something like that. Just go over 250 each. Not 250 plus and 2 touchdowns. Just simply the two of them going over 250 yards. That's not difficult. That's not a giant ask. Look at the totals that we see already. And we'll get to that number with Philly because, man, there was a rough beat on that. But even the scoring has been astronomically high. It's been record-setting. It's been through the roof from not only points scored, but touchdowns to a lesser extent. Everything has been flying. So that even adds, I think, more emphasis to it and why it continues to be a gigantic story. What are the odds? Fox Sports Radio, The Gambler. It's presented by Cure Auto Insurance. Talk to Seamus Clancy at 6:30. Not only about what happened, I wanted to get his thoughts as he's doing some work for Bleeding Green, get his thoughts on what happened yesterday with the Eagles and the ramifications of this now moving forward, but also what appears to be an interesting twist in the NBA coaching search. Doc Rivers was fired about 25 minutes ago. Can't say I'm shocked the way in which that team broke down. He's actually responsible for a couple of them. Our buddy Bipolar Legend on Twitter put out that tweet. Responsible for 3 of the 13 teams to lose 3-1 leads in the NBA playoff series. I'm sorry. Now, Ty Lue is out of the conversation, as is because Mike D'Antoni was the favorite, but I don't know if Doc Rivers is going to be coaching here in Philadelphia. We also have this other nonsense to deal with that came out where another report, for some reason, decided to go down the road of Joe and Ben don't like each other. But anybody who's been watching and paying attention, at the very least to Embiid, knows that that has been predicted. We have Nick Foles named. This is a ton of stuff happening right now. The NBA had to go and fire Doc Rivers, where it was just a nice, easy Monday to cruise into Monday Night Football and Game 6 of the Stanley Cup. But now I have to deal with Nick Foles, named the starting quarterback, week 4 against, now if you look at this, it's pretty big, as they just led that 20-point comeback against Chicago. So the first 3-0 start for the Bears since 2013, but now you know Nick Foles has a full week of practice, and we'll look at that early line coming up in a couple of minutes after we chat with Seamus at 6:30. And, of course, Stanley Cup final tonight, there's really only one place and one area to play, and that's value. Oh, by the way, speaking of the NFL, Earl Thomas is going to sign with the Texans, which is another reason why I love Houston to make the playoffs and the Eagles to not, is because Houston is just a victim. And we'll get into these odds. I've set them up already. 0-2-1 Philadelphia, 0-3 Minnesota, 0-3 Houston, 0-3 Atlanta. Best shot at turning this around and making the playoffs. And that is the parlay. Turning it around and making the playoffs, not just turning it around and finishing 7-9. You're out of the playoffs. You're out of this conversation. And, of course, how this news with Doc Rivers factors in with the Philadelphia 76ers, who, if you read a report as early as, or I guess as late as 3 hours ago, it was all about Mike D'Antoni's job to lose. Tonight in the NHL, and I'll get you these odds specifically, but I can't imagine that there's any real play, and I don't know how you see this as far as a result, but as far as getting anything back of value, I don't know how you could get anything with the Lightning outside of specifically calling a goal scorer, even at -1.5 on the puck line. The return is +148. That's pretty low. You're laying 180 at +1.5 for Dallas. Right now, I think the best play, like the value that you're going to get, and I'm looking at DraftKings, the value would be under 5 at +118. That's a big ask. A lot of goals being scored in this one. And also, the money line, at least you can get Dallas at +145, but that's not a huge payout right there. The Stanley Cup, the Game 6, and maybe people are looking at it as far as Dallas being able to push this thing to a 6th game. which is impressive in its own right. Don't get me wrong. But they're looking at it like all of the momentum now is carried by Dallas to push this to a 7th game. And there's enough to believe that narrative. There's enough convincibility, if you will, to quote King of Queens, in that narrative that it's reflected, I think, in these odds. There is no, for a team that's on the verge of elimination, and we saw that happen in the NBA. Thankfully, Boston is out. I'm glad because Miami is way more compelling. I'd much rather see Jimmy Butler in the finals than anybody to do with Boston. And that's not just because it's Boston. It's because it's Jimmy. So I'm grateful for that. And we'll chat at length about Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat over the next couple of days. Probably not as much tonight, as we have a gigantic football game that we'll start to turn to a little deeper at 6:45 for the final hour and plus. But also, and just to kind of remind people of where we are on the sports calendar, Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final. Maybe this is a live bet. Maybe you'll wait, see if Dallas can get up and swing something back on Tampa. But Tampa at minus 167 on the money line is probably the best you're going to get. Throwing something down on a team that isn't even a convincing favorite. Neither one of these teams, like Dallas, is nowhere near a convincing dog. 145 is 145. I'm not going to turn it away. But Dallas isn't anywhere near. I thought it may be plus 185, 190. You could get an insane amount of value back. At 167, you're laying just enough to where it now becomes a risk. And it's not like a minus. I wouldn't throw that in a parlay unless you feel just entirely comfortable about it. I don't. But, I mean, even looking at other games that you could throw that in there as far as money line parlays, 167 is just on that other side of that line, to where you're nervous, you're concerned, and when you look at it, you don't see a number that calms you down. Oh, okay, minus 300, minus 500. Granted, we see upsets. That's not outside the realm of any possibility. But at 167, you should be prepared for Dallas to take this game. You should be prepared for the dog to come through, knowing that Tampa is only minus 167 on the money line. Puck, or the total as far as 5 is concerned, it's a ton of juice at minus 143. They're begging you to go under at plus 118. Just asking you, please, if you are going to bet the Stanley Cup Final tonight, then please take the under 5. That's the best value, the best return you're going to get on the board. Unless Tampa comes out and smokes Dallas. That's, I guess, the only other thing, or really the only thing, that you can insert into this conversation would be Tampa would come out and dominate Dallas, put up 3-4. Next thing you know, it's a 5-1, 5-2 finish. Tampa hoists the cup. They move on. The bubble deflates, and there's the season. Okay. But even still, either team, Dallas survives in a shootout, or Tampa just puts the clamps on Dallas and wins big. But they're kind of telling you that, at least based off of how this line plays out on the total, that number, that 5, they're kind of telling you that expect a lot of goals. Expect this to get really close to 4. And then 5 if there's an empty net, or if there's just a scenario in which Tampa or Dallas, mind you, finds a way to sneak one at the end and even force an overtime. Overtime, you can imagine this is definitely clearing 5. Definitely. That's probably the best way you can spin this right now, depending on how confident you are in either team. And as a reflection of the money line, I wouldn't jump on either. Live bet this thing. Wait for it to happen. You'll have Jansen on at 8 o'clock anyway, so he'll take you through it as far as what's happening with that and the Monday night game at 8:15. It's our job to kind of prepare you for it as best we can. Yesterday, so I'm doing a show. I'm on 4 to 6, and it comes on right around the fourth quarter, midway at most through the fourth quarter, depending on when a game starts. So I get, and part of my job on this show that I do is to basically talk, like on this show, on this channel, and grateful for the opportunity to do that, where we get to live react. Oh, this is happening, and I can do a form of play-by-play, but also from a line and a betting standpoint. So I'm able to do that as well. And that's essentially what happened which is I'm watching the Eagles and Bengals game just struggle. And it was a total struggle fest. So these two teams are knotted at 23, and they go into overtime. Now, the guy I'm working with, this poor kid, I felt so bad for him because this was really a reflection of just how bad things were. And I don't know, I don't necessarily believe that you could textbook define this as a bad beat, but this was excruciating. And I want you to understand how bad this is. So here's Andrew, who has the total, and he's going over 47.5. That's what it closed at. It's 46 going into overtime. A field goal seals the over. A safety seals the over. Any way in which you can get on the board, you are going to seal the over. A safety. Think about that. If you won in overtime off a safety, it would still push it from 46 to 48, and my buddy Andrew would have cashed his ticket. Instead, and again, you think it's bad sitting there as a fan watching this excruciatingly bad football. Imagine sitting there with a ticket, digital, of course, ticket, looking at your phone, constantly being reminded that it's over 47.5. Did I go over? Damn. Come on. These guys, Carson Wentz, Joe Burrow, at least as bad as Carson Wentz was, and this is what you have to be thinking going into overtime, at least as bad as Carson Wentz was, the defense was starting to pick up. Maybe they can get a turnover, put the Eagles in good field position, and there's a field goal. Or Joe Burrow, who's been playing well, mind you, can march down the field and actually score. All I need is a field goal. And again, even if that field goal is matched, all right, field goal, first possession. Then you have another opportunity to go down. Somebody else kicks a field goal. Then you go from there. Whatever it may be, just to score. And he had to sit there and watch one of the worst displays of offense across the board. Even Burrow and the Bengals had nothing. Now, granted, the Eagles' defense deserves a lot of credit in overtime, more so than anything else. But that was painful. Painful to watch. And part of me I felt for him. I really did. Because there were so many other people that took that ticket thinking, you know what? The Bengals offense can at least move the football and score. The Eagles, as bad as they've been, are going to give up points. Even if they get run out of the building, they're going to give up points. They may score 20, that's enough, and it should have been enough. There should have been one score. There should have been everything that you would have seen in front of you to add up to at least 3 points. And again, even that freak safety could have been in there. It's ridiculous. All right, we'll chat with Seamus Clancy, doing some great work for Bleeding Green, and get his thoughts on Big Hoop Head as well. So we'll get his thoughts on what happened with Doc Rivers and this Philadelphia 76ers coaching search, which is still going on. I want you to understand what's happening right now here in Philadelphia. The Eagles are off to an 0-2-1 start. The Sixers were run out of the bubble and have been on the back burner of anybody's discussion, including Mike D'Antoni, who realized he could use this job as leverage, and I'm not sold on anything right now. There are reports about Embiid and Simmons not liking each other, which I don't believe. Oh, and by the way, Jimmy Butler, who left here and said, as he was holding his nose up in disgust, this place stinks. He's in the NBA Finals. Nick Foles is back, starting in the NFL. And the Dallas Cowboys, as bad as they've looked, actually have an offense that can score about 50 on this Eagles team. Crazy. Crazy what's happened here. And how... and by the way, JT Realmuto most likely played his last game as a Philly. So throw that in there as well. All we're missing right now is some off-season injury with the Flyers that is going to hold somebody out for the first month, and just add that to the list. We have full-on embodied the year 2020 here. It took us a week and a half to be high-flying and excited about stuff to turn into what 2020 really is right now. We have physically embodied it here as a sports fan, and it took us about 10 days. We'll talk to Seamus next. What are the odds? Fox Sports Radio, The Gambler, presented by Cure Auto Insurance.
Our
iHeartRadio Music Festival brought the biggest artists in music
All
back
right, let me
together
get
for
you.
2 nights of live performances you'll never forget. They plugged in and played loud, superstar collaboration, powerful performances, iconic covers, state-of-the-art virtual technology, while iHeartRadio listeners experienced it all live as it happened from the first ever video fan wall. See for yourself.
Watch our must-see iHeartRadio Music Festival continuing tonight at 8 on the CW Philly.
Fox Sports Radio, The Gambler. Now, total traffic for Philadelphia.
We're still dealing with a crash in South Jersey in Haddon Township, 130 northbound, crawling between Collins Avenue and the White Horse Pike. Only the left lane is getting by. Also a crash causing problems in Upper Marion. That's 422 westbound, barely moving from the Schuylkill to 23. The left lane's blocked as traffic crawling on 202 southbound from the Schuylkill to 422 and the westbound Schuylkill Jan approaching and exiting for 202. Watch for a crash in Upper Pottsgrove, Farmington Avenue at Laura Lane. Traffic's being detoured around it. Laura Tutela, total traffic.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores. Staples helps your business with everything from office essentials to health essentials, all at amazing prices. In honor of National Coffee Day, this week, 24 packs of Dunkin' Original and Pete's Major Dickinson's coffee K-Cups are just $10.99. In-store only offer ends 10/3 while supplies last. Staples.
Just because you've been with the car insurance company for years doesn't mean you're getting the best rate. Almost all insurance companies use your credit score, education level, and your employment status to determine your rate, but not Cure Auto Insurance. Last time I checked, those things have nothing to do with your driving ability. Cure bases rates primarily on what really matters, how well you drive.
Cool, thank you.
Did you know a study showed if you don't have a 700 plus
and you can keep
score,
everybody
you could be paying over 50%
in the event
more for
of
car
if
insurance,
we have anybody
even
back,
without
just
an
to build,
accident or
you know, a
ticket.
Rolodex
Go to
for
cure.com
people
and
that
see how much you could be
guests and
saving
stuff.
getting a
Okay, cool.
and it's free. Plus, they have outstanding and convenient service. They offer pay by text, electronic billing, and claim support 24
Oh yeah, good call.
hours a day.
I forgot
7
about
days a
that
week.
guy too.
Just
Jeez.
visit cure.com.
That is one hell of a stretch, man.
Or call 800-535
Just
cure.
brutal.
That's 800-535-2873. Cure Auto Insurance. Drive well.
Hey, Eagles fans, Pepsi is now the official soft drink of your Philadelphia Eagles, and we're celebrating by giving fans like you a chance to win awesome Eagles prizes. Look for golden cans featuring Swoop in specially marked Eagles Pepsi 12 packs. Find one and you can score.
All right, 40 seconds and he's on the line.
Awesome. Thank you.
For football watch.
Yep.
Wawa today to find the Pepsi Golden Swoop can before it flies off the shelves. Pepsi, the official soft drink of the Philadelphia Eagles. No purchase necessary. Open to residents of VA 18+. Subject to official rules. For rules and eligibility, visit madeforeaglesfootballwatching.com. Ends 11/9/2020. Void where prohibited.
Tonight, Fox has all the new drama you've been looking for. From wild action
LAPD
to shocking twists.
running him.
First, Gabrielle Union and Jessica Alba partner up for LA's finest.
You know, you could get yourself killed.
Says the lady standing over a dead body.
Then, Kim Cattrall
10.
series critics call soapy good fun, filthy rich.
Did you really think you'd have the upper hand in my tent?
LA's finest and filthy rich. Fox tonight.
All right, we're going to head out to the Dr. Glatt Regrow Your Hairline. Dr. Paul Glatt, Philadelphia's leading hair restoration doctor, bringing Seamus Clancy. Know him on Twitter, of course, at Seamus_Clancy. And I know you're doing some work for Bleeding Green. The Patreon site is up as well. Anything else we can get out and promote, please just run through the list, my man. Always a pleasure to chat. Appreciate your time and hope all is well with you.
Hey, man, you hit the nail on everything. That's patreon.com/Seamus_Clancy. I do a little Philly sports newsletter every morning, Monday through Friday. It's $2 per month. Well worth it if you're a Philadelphia sports fan who's going through it the way I am right now.
Well, that's where I wanted to start, man. And, you know, there are a few people like you who come to mind when you want to get not only a good recap of what happened, but the true emotional recap of what happened. Just if you can put into words what was going on with you as a fan for all your life, watching this team, this quarterback, this defense, everything just on a bigger picture yesterday. What happened and how difficult it was for you to watch that tie?
I feel like I've been saying this every week where it's getting worse and worse. Like, I've never been this embarrassed to be a fan. I've never been this embarrassed to be a fan. But in that moment in overtime where obviously Matt Pryor gets that penalty. A 59-yard field goal turns into a 64-yard field goal, and Doug Peterson opts to punt. I felt ashamed to spend so much of my life, part of my financial well-being, everything that I invest in this team, to watch them say, I'm okay with a tie, not a win. I would have rather have Wentz try his, doofus Houdini routine and got strip sacked and the Bengals running back for a touchdown, because at least they tried.
Right.
But punting there, what is that? I mean, that's a situation where what would happen if fans were in the stands for that game? What would happen if I was up there in the top level, had a couple and me and I watched that happen? Felt like there'd be a riot. That's inexcusable.
You're right.
I just feel like he quit on the team, the city, the owner, me, everyone, us.
It's gut-wrenching to watch it again and again and then hear him admit to it Monday morning. You do raise an interesting point, and I wonder, because there are a few places where this could happen in all sports, not just the NFL. But take me through what you think would happen hypothetically. Fans are in the stands. Doug Peterson sends out the punt team. As soon as fans get wind of it, it's just stand up, boos, vitriol. Is that enough, you think, for him to change his mind?
I'm not kidding you. I think the outcry would have been that severe given the way the season has started going into the way that first 4.5 quarters, I guess you could say, of that game transpired. I think the cheers that would have kept on going once that penalty on Matt Pryor got accepted and they're moving them back, I think everyone would have been screaming, cheering, smacking the seats next to them, high-fiving, whatever it would be, that there'd be enough of a ruckus that it's impossible as a human being, not just saying Doug Peterson specifically, but it's the same thing where, home cooking gets the ref because the fans are that crazy and loud. That goes for everywhere, not just Philadelphia.
No, I agree.
You hear that reaction. And say,
I'm sorry.
What am I doing?
Yeah, and he hasn't had any of that, I feel like, since 2017. And it's not just fans, right? And it's not just people in the stands like you and I holding this team accountable, but it's also people around him in the organization, even guys that may stand 2 to 3 feet next to him normally. It just seems like since 2017, there has been a gap that is widening from Doug Peterson all over and just having a feel for what's happening to now looking like it's his first game as a coach at times.
Yeah, where's the next Frank Reich in his year? I think people give too much credit to Frank Reich. Obviously, tremendous influence on that Will Ryan, a great coach in his own right in the Colts. But at the same time, why isn't Press Taylor that next Frank Reich in his ear, trying to get him to maybe be a little bit more aggressive than his initial instinct would like him to be? I think back to that game in 2016 against the Ravens. It's going down to the end of the game. The Eagles could have, gone for 2 and won the game. The season's over. They could go for 2 and win the game. They don't get it, they lose, or they could have kicked and won for overtime. They went for it, and it was kind of a controversy, even though the team probably had 5 or 6 wins at that point. But ultimately, that was showing faith in your team. That was a young team that was a young quarterback showing, I believe in you guys. I believe we can do this. We can do this together. So what message does that send now? The team is 4 years later, the same quarterback's in there. He's regressed tremendously over the last 3 years, saying, I don't have faith in you to do this anymore.
You're right. And you look at it, Doug Peterson just aborted. He didn't have faith in anybody. Even with the punt, I mean, if you have faith in your defense, then you go for it, knowing if you miss it, then your defense is going to prevent them from getting a couple of yards in field goal range with 19 seconds left and no timeouts. Punting there, as you mentioned, as far as giving up on fans and giving up on so many people, he gave up on everybody. Like, do you realize how difficult that is to give up on your entire team in one play? The quarterback, the kicker, the defensive coordinator, he just aborted.
Yeah,
he threw the controller. He rage quit.
You don't have 5 seconds to block and get the people, prevent the pass rush and let Wentz get a quick pass out. You don't have confidence in the receivers to run a correct route, get outside the margins, and get the ball and get out of bounds real quick so that Jay could come in and maybe hit a 44-yard field goal instead of a 59 or 64-yard field goal. You don't have confidence in defense that would have 8 seconds on the clock with the ball around midfield not to prevent a score. That's an indictment of the defensive coordinator, the pass rush, every component of the defense then it's really all three facets of the team: the offense, the defense, and special teams. Who does he trust right now? Who is he confident in? Because it's definitely not the quarterback, and the more we look at it, it seems no one else either.
No. How about the quarterback? Seamus Clancy joining us at Seamus_Clancy and the Dr. Glatt Regrow Your Hairline. Dr. Paul Glatt, Philadelphia's leading hair restoration doctor. How much do you really trust him? Just look at the next week. Forget the next couple of weeks. Forget the stretch. Forget the rest of the season, all of that. Just going into San Francisco, the team aside, like it could be going into Beirut. It could be going into Canada. It could be going on to the moon. Forget the opponent. Just Russ and Wentz as a whole. How much confidence do you really have in him just to turn it around in a week?
I mean, they could be going into Bishop Eustace, and I'd have a little cause for concern right now. This is the worst stretch of his career, and he's about to be in 2.5 months, 28 years old. It's his 5th season in the league, and he has not looked worse. He has not gotten better in several years. How are we supposed to be confident in him when his entire coaching staff doesn't even appear to be confident in him? Before even, not going for it on 4th down, they were playing scared on that last drive in overtime. They were playing for a 50-plus yard field goal. They weren't playing for a touchdown. It looked like they were scared of Wentz trying to throw the ball downfield, being too aggressive and being mistake-prone as he's been through so far this season. He has 6 interceptions in 3 games. He has 3 touchdowns in 3 games. Nick Foles had 3 touchdowns in 3.5 minutes yesterday.
You brought him up first. I didn't, for the record.
I mean, I was, I couldn't have been more in favor. Every logical, rational part of my brain, it was a given to keep Wentz. The career trajectory, the pedigree, the place they were out there in the careers, the contract at the time, it seemed obvious to keep Carson Wentz. But at this point in time, if you're an Eagles fan, you're lying to yourself if you go out and say, hey, I'd love to watch Nick Foles on TV with the Eagles right now. I'd love to watch his confidence going down the field in overtime. I would love the aura he brings in this team. Because I feel like, even if it's not just Doug Peterson, people on the team, going back into the controversies in 2018 and 2019, still clearly preferred him to a degree. And that contingent of Eagles fans who loved him and wanted to keep him over Wentz has not only gotten louder, it has grown.
It is. That whole Folesian society, as I've heard it coined, is just become a huge community. And this has done nothing to quell that or stop that by any means. I'm curious, when you look at from more of a bigger picture, and I mean, maybe more of a trying to at least, of any type of balanced picture, how much do you and should we factor in the injuries? I was having this conversation earlier in the day, and everything, I felt like everything I was throwing as far as injury, I even heard myself, Seamus, sound like I was making excuses, and it was countered by, well, the Niners this, the Niners that, and other teams, getting through it. But then again, I look and think, well, they are banged up, and guys did go down in that game like Dallas Goedert and Deshaun. So there should be at least a little bit factored in, but how much do you factor into this general equation of misery this year?
Well, part of it is they're always banged up. Isn't this the norm? Isn't that a sense of normalcy? Obviously, the Eagles seem more banged up than their average NFL team, maybe not besides the 49ers and the Chargers, where they're nearly killing their players, which is an entirely different discussion. But to a degree, to be the Philadelphia Eagles is to have an injured team. Isn't there a sense of normalcy and understanding, like, this is what it's going to be, this is what it's going to take, this is what the roster is going to be? But again, the other part of that is having a general manager who constructs a roster with aging players, injury-prone players, older players.
That alone has been brutal. To watch this team just deteriorate. Hey, I want to get your thoughts on something while I have you here, Seamus. It happened, I don't know, maybe an hour ago, and clearly has set social media ablaze, especially from a local standpoint here about the Philadelphia 76ers. Let's start with your general thoughts. I can't imagine there's much surprise when you saw the news that Doc Rivers was fired after that awful departure by the Clippers.
I was a little surprised in just the wording of Adrian Wojnarowski's tweet. Doc Rivers is out. He wasn't fired. He wasn't resigned. He's out.
He's out, yeah.
Which I thought was a little strange. But obviously, you have to think, are the Sixers interested in him? Because to me, it seemed like they were in between Mike D'Antoni and Tyronn Lue. But Tyronn Lue is the assistant coach for the Los Angeles Clippers. So one, it seemed obvious for him to slide over one seat, become the head coach there. And then now does that take away the Ty Lue option for the Sixers? Is that off the table? Are they all in on MDA now? But the opportunity is there for Doc Rivers. It seems like that would be a fit too. I love Mike D'Antoni as an offensive mind, but from a personnel standpoint, it doesn't really fit in Philadelphia unless he's getting some semblance of personnel control, which is another murky thing given the state of this front office to begin with. Are they making trades to fit his offense? But from there's an easier path here, I think, with Doc Rivers, where he's someone who's managed big personalities, big stars, played in big games in different cities and won. That's what they need. I think that's what Ty Lue could have given them. I think he managed personalities in Cleveland more than just X's and O's.
Right.
To balance out your Kyrie Irvings, your LeBron Jameses, your Kevin Loves, that takes something. And I thought maybe he could do that here with Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, and the rest of the cast of characters. But if they can't get Ty Lue, I think Doc Rivers is on that same trajectory of a guy that, could weather the storm, get these, star-type players together, quell the personality issues, and just maximize the team's talent.
All right, so real quick, last one for you, Seamus. And again, I appreciate you, man, for the time here.
Of course.
So look at it this way, because I see the Bleacher Report come out, and this is from Mark J. Spears, who put this out here, that the Pelicans and Sixers have both reached out. So let's take both of our personal bias aside here, being in Philadelphia and rooting for the Sixers. If I'll put you in Doc's shoes, if you're Doc, where would you go knowing you have the option?
Well, it seems like the Pelicans are a tad younger of a team, whereas he might want to be on a team that's a little bit more playoff ready, as playoff ready as a team that got swept in the first round could be in the Sixers. But at the same time, it looks like Doc had a ton of success in 2018 and 2019 on these kind of younger upstart Clippers teams before they swung the moves for Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. And I think at the same time, that Pelicans team now, with some key vets like Drew Holiday, some younger players like Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, obviously Zion Williamson, that actually feels more akin to the last time Doc Rivers was super successful coach a year or two back with that young nucleus they had in Los Angeles before they shipped a lot of it away for Paul George.
Awesome. Seamus, thank you, brother. Be well. Again, appreciate the time tonight joining us. And you can follow Seamus on Twitter at Seamus_Clancy, patreon.com/Seamus_Clancy. Look for him Bleeding Green as well. Thank you, brother. Be well, be safe, and it's always a pleasure.
Stay safe.
Thanks, Seamus. Joining us on the Dr. Glatt Regrow Your Hairline, Dr. Paul Glatt, Philadelphia's leading hair restoration doctor. What are the odds? Fox Sports Radio, The Gambler, presented by Cure Auto Insurance.
It's the Daily Ticket with Sean Brace, 3 to 6 p.m.
All right.
4:50.
How long?
It's our fantasy.
4:50.
Okay, and then how long is the next break?
Cotillo, Christian McCaffrey, done for about 4 to 6 weeks, it seems.
3 minutes and 47 seconds.
So 450 and 340 or
You
350.
know, Mike Davis, you remember him from Chicago. You remember him from San Francisco. You remember him from Seattle. Set a couple coffee kind of everywhere. He's less than 1% owned in all of fantasy right now. But, when you have a team like the Carolina Panthers. And
so I'm only back for like a minute or two, huh?
Hand the ball off to. So Mike Davis is a capable running back.
If you can wager on it, we're talking about it right here on The Gambler.
Station, baby.
Yeah, actually.
Okay, no, that's fine. I'm just trying to think. So what? No, I'd rather not. Even if I'm only back for like a minute or so, 2 minutes, just to kind of transition.
Okay.
It's just because it's a lot. If we're done, I mean, now that we're going into a live show at 8, I wouldn't do that either to John. But if we were going to like network, that's one thing.
The home
So-
field advantage based right here in the Delaware Valley.
How much
many
time in the
different
break
ways to
now?
Bet on player performance.
3 minutes and 25 seconds.
So we're back at what,
Great
like
odds, outstanding customer service.
54:30
Sign up now and use the promo.
or 45?
That's 6:54:30.
Okay, give me 1 sec. All right, I'll be right back.
Okay.
Promo code ENDZONE. Check the website for details. Must be 21 and in Pennsylvania. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Hey, Eagles fans, Pepsi is now the official soft drink of your Philadelphia Eagles, and we're celebrating by giving fans like you a chance to win awesome Eagles prizes. Look for golden cans featuring Swoop in specially marked Eagles Pepsi 12 packs. Find one and you can score prizes like 2021 sweet tickets. Pepsi, made for football watching. Head into Wawa today to find the Pepsi Golden Swoop can before it flies off the shelves. Pepsi, the official soft drink of the Philadelphia Eagles. No purchase necessary. Open to residents of PA 18+. Subject to official rules. For rules and eligibility, visit madeforeaglesfootballwatching.com. Ends 11/9/2020. Void where prohibited.
And now a game of commercial chicken, brought to you by Progressive, where we see how long Flo can go without talking about insurance. Ready? Go.
So, traffic has been crazy lately, right? And rush hour? Forget it. Nobody wants to let you merge onto the highway. But hey, somebody let you merge or you wouldn't be there. So, drivers who switch to Progressive could save big.
Okay, you win. We can't help but save customers money. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Tonight, Fox has all the new drama you've been looking for. From wild action
LAPD
to shocking twists.
Running him.
First, Gabrielle Union and Jessica Alba partner up for LA's finest.
You know you could get yourself killed. Says the lady standing over a dead body.
Then, Kim Cattrall stars in the new series critics call soapy good fun, Filthy Rich.
Did you really think you'd have the upper hand in my tent?
LA's finest and Filthy Rich. Fox tonight.
I just got this voice changer for $5 to
All right.
tell you about
So-
Taco Bell's Grande Stacker Box. Stacks of melted cheese and seasoned beef, plus 2 crunchy tacos and a medium drink for only $5. I should have just got the feeling $5 Grande Stacker Box. Only a Taco
All right, so how much time?
Bell.
54:40, and then
for a limited time only. Contact local store for prices.
out at
Participation
3,
vary. Tax extra
7:56. So probably like 2 minutes.
Becoming cloudy overnight.
Yeah, you got like 2 minutes and maybe 30 seconds.
Okay.
Still warm and humid tomorrow with some showers and
I was gonna
thunderstorms during
fly
the day.
through something
A
real
steady
quick.
soaking rain arrives at night. The high tomorrow around 77. That's 6 ABC Action News weather.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores. Staples helps your business with everything from office essentials to health essentials, all at amazing prices. In honor of National Coffee Day, this week, 24 packs of Dunkin' Original and Pete's Major Dickinson's coffee.
30 seconds.
Only offer ends 10/3 while supplies last. Staples.
iHeartRadio is the #1 choice for music, radio, and podcasts, all in one. No one makes it easier to hear everything you love in one free app.
There are tons of playlists to choose from.
The work at home playlist really helps me stay focused. It's kind of become part of my routine.
We went on a road trip. We had a playlist for that. It doesn't even matter like how you doing, how you feeling. Like there's a playlist for all that.
Everything in one app.
If you're not one of the tens of millions who have the app, radio for free today and start listening.
iHeartRadio. Listen, everybody.
What are the odds you get great sports gambling talk with expert guests?
Oh, here it is.
Well, pretty good, actually. It's What's the Odds with Eitan Shander.
Well, I don't know about the great sports. Definitely the expert guests, as you just heard Seamus Clancy join us on the Dr. Glatt Regrow Your Hairline. Dr. Paul Glatt, Philadelphia's leading hair restoration doctor. Monday Night Football. So a quick segment here before we come back and stretch our arms to handle everything possible with Monday Night Football. Chiefs, Ravens, couple of big storylines to look at, couple of big bets, major bets to look at as well. We gave you where we stood with the Lightning Stars Game 6 in the NHL. Kind of recap that one more time, as you'll have a full hour to look over as many different angles as you can, which is ultimately going to lead you back to really one trail, and that's the under. But again, you can take whatever risk you want with Dallas. Big game tonight, and I can't imagine watching anything else, as you have, and it's very rare, mind you, but this is the equivalent of like a Christmas Day game in the NBA. This is the equivalent of the outdoor games that we see now, the Winter Classic in the NHL, what Interleague was before it just became totally watered down, and now just I don't even know what it was compared to now because it's so different than when it came out. But that's what you have, and it's not a precursor to the Super Bowl. They're going to hype it up as much as they can, and if I were ESPN or NBC or the NFL Network whenever you had a primetime game, I don't care who it is, just watch. They're going to hype the hell out of Denver and New York. The Jets, that New York, even worse. Well, maybe. I still think yes, but not by much. They're going to hype the hell out of that game. Jake Driscoll going up against Sam Darnold is going to seem like the second coming of Joe Montana and John Elway. Speaking of which, mind you, Joe Montana, what the hell is going? I thought Joe Montana was trending on Sunday because people were comparing Nick Foles to Joe Montana because Montana, of course, one of the best ever. And here comes Nick Foles. And there's that joke, right? Like, oh, Nick Montana. Turns out that Joe Montana fought off some 39-year-old intruder trying to kidnap his grandchild and to rip the kid away like a fumble, turned into a defender. Scary situation, I'm sure, handled, of course, by Broadway Joe, or not Broadway, but Montana Joe, and all was well in the Montana household. But still, you got to be pretty. You have to be out of your mind to try and punch a fumble away from Joe Montana. I don't care if he's 64, 65 years old. Those hands, that grip doesn't change. All right, big thing to look at tonight in the NFL, Monday Night Football. We've had a lot. Doc Rivers is canned. Looking at the NHL Stanley Cup, what happened over the weekend beyond just the NFL. I mean, the SEC's back. We have to mention that. There's a ton that will slide in here in the second hour. What are the odds? Fox Sports Radio, The Gambler, presented by Cure Auto Insurance.
Dan Patrick, 9 to noon.
Brett Brown joins us.
Colin Cowherd from noon to
All right,
3.
how much time here?
3:40.
Okay, 1 second. Thanks.
Yep.
With Sean Brace from 3 to 6 p.m. Only one place you can find that.
All ears to it.
Right here on Fox Sports Radio, The Gambler. Fox Sports Radio, The Gambler. Now, total traffic for Philadelphia.
Traffic's falling 422 westbound from the Schuylkill to 23. Our crash takes out the left lane, has 202 southbound barely moving from the Schuylkill out to 422. And the westbound Schuylkill jam approaching and exiting for 202. We've got a crash now on the eastbound Schuylkill. That's Jam Montgomery Drive to Spring Garden, where the center lane is blocked. Watch for an accident in South Jersey. This is Route 130 northbound in Haddon Township, jam up between Collins Avenue and the White Horse Pike. Only the left lane gets by. Large Totella total traffic.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores. Staples has everything to start the year right, no matter where school happens, at amazing prices. This week, Crayola 12-pack markers, 10-pack of fine tip markers, and 12-pack colored pencils with sharpener are just 97 cents each. Ends 10/10 while supplies last. Limit 30 in store. Limits vary online. Staples.
Just because you've been with the car insurance company for years doesn't mean you're getting the best rate. Almost all insurance companies use your credit score, education level, and your employment status to determine your rate, but not Cure Auto Insurance. Last time I checked, those things have nothing to do with your driving ability. Cure bases rates primarily on what really matters, how well you drive. Did you know a study showed if you don't have a 700 plus credit score, you could be paying over 50% more for car insurance even without an accident or ticket? Go to cure.com and see how much you could be saving. Getting a quote is quick and easy, and it's free. Plus, they have outstanding and convenient service. They offer pay by text, electronic billing, and claim support 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Just visit cure.com, that's CURE.com, or call 800-535-CURE. That's 800-535-2873. Cure Auto Insurance. Drive well.
Hey, Eagles fans, Pepsi is now the official soft drink of your Philadelphia Eagles, and we're celebrating by giving fans like you a chance to win awesome Eagles prizes. Look for golden cans featuring Swoop in specially marked Eagles Pepsi 12 packs. Find one and you can score prizes like 2021 Sweet Tickets. Pepsi, made for football watching. Head into Wawa today to find the Pepsi Golden Swoop can before it flies off the shelves. Pepsi, the official soft drink of the Philadelphia Eagles. No purchase necessary. Open to residents of VA 18+, subject to official rules. For rules and eligibility, visit madeforeaglesfootballwatching.com. Ends 11/9/2020. Void where prohibited.
Now, Audible gives you audiobooks, podcasts, Audible originals, and more, all in one place. Whether you want to dive into a series, listen to a popular bestseller, or check out the latest episode of a great new podcast, Audible has you covered. Enjoy genres.
Hey, how much time do I have?
Motivation, mysteries, and sci.
50 seconds. I didn't know you were back. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Or discover the Audible exclusive everyone's talking about, The Sandman. And for a limited time, Prime members get $50 off their first year of Audible Premium Plus membership. Visit audible.com to get started.
When it comes to driving change, there's no action as powerful as casting a vote. So Levi's wants to help get as many people as possible registered and ready to vote this fall. Text Levi's to 788-683 for key dates, election reminders, and voters info. And don't miss the new podcast from iHeartRadio and Levi's called Why I'm Voting, where you'll hear more reasons to vote. iHeartRadio's Why I'm Voting, countdown to Election Day. Your vote is your voice.
WDAS and
Wait, 5 seconds.
is The Gambler, an iHeart radio station, presented by Cure Auto Insurance. A Florida man does something stupid.
Don't do something stupid.
What are the odds? It's Eitan Shander on Fox Sports The Gambler.
All right, second hour, and have come up with a couple of odds here. Speaking of what are the odds the Philadelphia Eagles make the playoffs alongside the Vikings, Texans, or Falcons? Might even have to put a poll up, but this is our virtual poll that we do. And yes, I have seen the news. I have seen the report from Bob Brookover. It is disgraceful. It is insulting. And I sure as hell am not going to stay quiet about it, not on this show or any other show. Or this is beautiful because now I can write a little bit about this on the Philly Voice column that should be up tomorrow. And Bob Brookover tweeted, a team source said he does not think the Phillies will fire GM Matt Klentak. We'll circle back to that in a second. But as far as this setup, who's going to make the playoffs of these four teams, winless teams, 0-2-1 Philadelphia, 0-3 Minnesota, Houston, and Atlanta. The odds-on favorite has to be Philadelphia. And here's the trick of all of this, is that nobody is going to be even money or lower. Nobody's going to be minus anything. There's no minus 110. Everything here is plus money. But I think that we can create a situation that makes sense from an odds standpoint, but also when you look through it, has a ton of value for two teams. And that, of course, is Minnesota and Houston. And I think both Minnesota and Houston come in at around 250 and 300, while Atlanta sits at +6. So this is what I have. Odds on to make the playoffs. What are the odds the Philadelphia Eagles make the playoffs? 0-2-1 at +110 for the Eagles. 0-3 Minnesota at +250. 0-3 Houston at +300. 0-3 Atlanta at +600. Texans about to sign Earl Thomas. It'll help. It won't change the entire direction of the season. What will is the schedule. Eagles go 0-2-1 in the easiest stretch of their schedule. And now I'm expected to believe that they're going to turn this thing around going up against really difficult football teams, one of which they'll see in 2 weeks that's playing tonight. So even at +110, and I get it, the odds-on favorite only because of the division in which they play in. That's it. But I would look at that specifically and make a move on either Houston or Minnesota. That makes the most sense. Atlanta's a long shot. They have an offense, but that's it. Dan Quinn actually is probably going to be the first head coach fired if you wanted to look at some odds there in the global market. That came in, I saw this last week, and Dan Quinn was 7-2 behind Matt Patricia at 2-1 to be fired. Mike Zimmer up there at 7-1. Man, that would be something if they fired Mike Zimmer in Minnesota this early in the season. He's out. That's not going to happen. Doug Marrone, they want Marrone in there. Anthony Lynn might get fired just because of the debacle that was the punctured lung of Tyrod Taylor by the doctor on the sideline before the game. So, yeah, I think Quinn right now, especially after the Lions won, I think Quinn has to be the odds. Quinn might not make it until Sunday or to Sunday, I should say. Same thing with Adam Gase. Where is he on this list? He wasn't even on this list, Adam Gase. How is that even possible that Adam Gase wouldn't be on there? I'm looking at Vic Fangio, Kevin Stefanski, and Matt Nagy at 28-1. Stefanski and Nagy are there. What is going on? And these are real global market odds here. It's not the ones that I just created out of thin air with the Eagles, Minnesota, Houston, and Atlanta. That's a real bet you can place, and they don't even have that guy on the board. That's an insult. That line has shifted a little bit. The puck line has dropped just a little bit. Plus 1.5 for Dallas, down to minus 175. Money line's up to plus 148 now. And the Lightning money line, as expected, dropped just a little bit to minus 175. All right, big bets to look at tonight. And this is the huge game. It's a nice, needed break from the debacle that is the Philadelphia Eagles season. I think we all need a break from that, and rightfully so. You can't just sit there and pound the same issues or problems and talk about the offensive line injuries over and over again. It really isn't interesting. It just becomes Charlie Brown's teacher over and over again, and it wears off on your ears to hear the same thing again. And if you're complaining about it or analyzing it or bringing it up into discussion, I don't know what you're doing anymore. You're spinning around in a major circle here. And that circle is actually getting smaller and smaller each week as they continue to do the same thing each week. Chiefs at plus 3.5. Ravens just a little bit less at minus 107, but you can buy into that hook all you like. Should be a close game. Money line tells a little bit of a different story at minus 180 to plus 155. And that total has been bet down a half point, which I'm surprised. Truly surprised at that. I don't know what. That's the one thing I am the most confident in heading into tonight by a long shot right now. And I don't mean a long shot as far as plus 1,000. I mean a long shot. Like knock down that 3. It's money. Minus 108 to go under 54.5 is enticing. But the play, even if you have to lay a little more, okay, you lay 113 on DraftKings, and it'll be similar depending on where you look. And if you want to go check out like a Bookies or Odds Checker or something like that. They'll tell you the best. But go over that. I went over 55 and had no problems, had no concerns at all with that. Why wouldn't you? What's holding you back? The Chiefs' defense? The Ravens, stopping Kansas City multiple times over? Ravens have the better defense, granted, and it's not close, and it's no knock on our buddy Spags. It's just this defense is way too inconsistent this year in Kansas City. A loss doesn't hurt either one of these teams. It's a head-to-head loss where at the think about it, the scenario that'll play out at the end of the year would be Kansas City and Baltimore having similar records and a discussion about whether or not either one of these teams has a tiebreaker. Well, now you know. This is the difference between the number 1 seed and the number 2 seed. A loss tonight for the Ravens or a loss tonight for the Chiefs is not going to keep them out of anything. But, and this is where you factor in who's at home, and this is where you factor in what's on the line right now. Both teams come into this 2-0, and even surviving overtime last week, that was the big reason why we took the Chargers on Wednesday. That's why we told you to take the Chargers and the 8.5 against the Chiefs, is because they were sandwiched in between opening up the season against the Texans, and it was just opening up the season, and this game. Yes, a look ahead. Yes, just ignoring the Chargers or not preparing enough for the Chargers. I think you could just walk in there and dominate the Chargers. Now, granted, it took overtime, but they get the victory. In the case here tonight, can't have it both ways. And honestly, you can't look at it two different ways. You're either subscribing to one theory or not. If you believe that the Baltimore Ravens looked ahead, or the Chiefs, looked ahead to the Ravens, if you believe that was part of the discussion here, fueling why they couldn't cover an 8.5 point spread against the Chargers, then you have to believe that they're geared up and ready for this game. That's the reason why they looked ahead on the Chargers. It's not like they were nervous, biting their nails off and sweating and shaking of caffeine and whatever else. Had nothing to do with that. They were preparing mentally and even from a coaching standpoint, looking ahead. I just don't know how you stop either quarterback. That's the thing, is how is either one of these quarterbacks going to be stopped by the opposition? Just look at Mahomes first. The easy answer is trying to and really just conceding that there is no way with Lamar. But let's look at Mahomes first. Mahomes comes in, and this is why I think there's a ton of value on individual props for Mahomes. On the game itself, the only real one, minus 180, if you can work this into a parlay, like, for example, the Jets are not going to win that football game. Denver is good enough on defense to come in and win that game as a road favorite. Yes, tight line, but if you wanted to parlay those two, then you're going to get a good return at plus 162. That's where the Ravens money line comes into play. They're not going to lose this game. I really don't think that there's just no way the Kansas City Chiefs defense, as inconsistent as they've looked, is going to do anything to slow Lamar Jackson down. I can't see it. So I'm comfortable, at least, using the money line in some capacity. Straight up at minus 180 doesn't make much sense. But if I can squeeze that in on another play and just look at it, Seattle has to cross country against Miami. That's a game in which Seattle loses. That's the reason why Seattle always finishes 10-6, something like that, is because one of these bad losses out of conference across the country, in which is just get in, get out with no injuries. Dallas, on the other hand, needs a victory, and Cleveland is ripe right now for the taking. They come in as a plus 180 dog, not even 2-1, and there's a lot of false bottoms in that right there, where I could play through that no problem and take Dallas at minus 225. Now you've got something. Denver on the road, Baltimore at home tonight, and the Cowboys. That'll get you plus 280. So that's how I would use the Baltimore Ravens tonight, especially on the money line. Told you the total, if you could get it under 55, I don't know what you're waiting on. But even at 55, I'd pull the trigger on the over. I did already pull the trigger on the over. It's been bet down, makes me feel even better that people are going under, that the public right now, late push for the under. I don't know what you're concerned about. Again, these two quarterbacks are going to be able to move the football up and down the field. Even if it's quick stuff, it's still going to be up and down the field. Yeah, clock can be taken off, but clock has already been ramped up a little bit, and you're going to see shots taken down the field too. I know we get used to watching the Eagles dink and dunk their way to a tie against the Bengals, but trust, the Chiefs and Ravens are going to throw this football. Lamar Jackson is going to drop back and throw that football a ton, as is Patrick Mahomes. But I think you can look at two specific player props, and we'll start with the quarterbacks here. Lamar Jackson just trying to get passing yards down. Mahomes is at 292.5. Lamar's at 255.5. He's going to move. They're going to ask Lamar Jackson to move on the ground. Pocket will collapse at times. It's not going to be a perfect night in the pocket for Lamar. But 255 seems like a low number. Even at DraftKings, the juice at minus 118 to go over tells you something. Lamar Jackson throwing for 230. Again, say that out loud. Does that make sense to you? The Ravens beat the Chiefs at home, Monday Night Football. Lamar Jackson throws for 230. It's not impossible, but 3 touchdowns, a short and throwing night when he's been able to connect with a bunch of different receivers and clearly not miss out on having multiple running backs that they can go to consistently. Mahomes, you'd have to think that he's going for 300 regardless. Lamar Jackson, you could see a really tight night, like a really good, efficient night from Jackson, and maybe you want to stay away from that. If you're not going to go over 255.5, then I would stay away from it entirely. You might miss out. That's part of it, but you live to fight another day. The minus 106 there, at least on DK, is there to entice you. It's there to fool you, in my opinion. On the flip side, you'd have to be crazy, even though you're getting plus 108 back. You'd have to be crazy to fade Mahomes going under 300. Like, why? Why would you do that? There isn't a scenario. Really, there isn't a scenario. They're going to run the football. Clyde Edwards-Helaire has turned into a workhorse. They're going to get him in there. In fact, he's the only guy in the minus right now in a pretty good play, even at minus 143. To score a touchdown. I do like Mark Ingram in there. Tight end. Be able to, Mark Andrews. Tight end. be able to squeeze his way in there. Ingram's at plus 120. Andrews at plus 125. Either one of them, I think, are good plays. The only thing you have to worry about with Ingram is carries getting taken away in goal line situations by Gus, the Gus bus. Touchdown score is tough. To score in general, though, like the first or last, is a really difficult crapshoot. But to score in general, like Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a major part of this running game, and Andy Reid at least knows he has a workhorse back. The problem is that we know Andy. He's not going to run the ball 40 times tonight. What world, like who raised you as an Eagles fan that you think you're going to go into this game and watch Patrick Mahomes hand the football off 40 times? This dude, Andy Reid, has found the best possible scenario for him as a head coach ever. And it's no knock on anybody else that played here. It's just, my goodness, Patrick Mahomes, are you kidding me? This is generational talent. This is one of the few guys that's going to make an impact. Like, we're seeing the torch already passed in the AFC to Mahomes as the winner, as the champion. And then you have a couple of other guys that are in there, like Lamar Jackson, for example. But until they win, this is Mahomes' conference at the very least. Now, granted, Russell Wilson with the Super Bowl, Aaron Rodgers with the Super Bowl, both of those guys are playing out of this world. And it's worth a mention just how special Russell's season has begun, as well as Aaron Rodgers, who has come in and got the football out faster than a lot, if not anybody in the NFL. But that aside, Andy Reid, this is going to be a ton of passes tonight. And you're on prime time. You would think Andy Reid, being around in the NFL forever, already winning a Super Bowl, wouldn't let the element of a primetime game influence his play calling. But you know that's not the case. You know it's the exact opposite. He's going to come in like a kid. Oh, man, you know we're on Monday Night Football. They're going to throw the football 50 times tonight. They could be up by 3 touchdowns, and Mahomes is still going to drop back and throw the football. Watch, it might even be swing passes, screen passes, quick out slants, whatever it is, quick drops to get the ball out, but that's happening. Baltimore, on the other hand, you can't be promised anything. That's why I would stay away from Lamar Jackson and roll heavy with Patrick Mahomes over 292.5. And again, you have to lay the juice at minus 134. Maybe you can find it with a better deal elsewhere, but go over. If it's anything under 300 yards, I think you have to reasonably look at that as a safe play. And I say reasonably. I add that caveat in there because nothing is truly safe, but it's reasonable. Now, again, another play, Lamar Jackson's rushing yards. That's where I think you can now factor in a prop for LJ. 62.5. It's a ton of juice. Find it elsewhere. Maybe you can get it a little bit better at Fox Bet, FanDuel, Parks, one of those. The under 62.5. At least DraftKings is begging you here. But that number is good for me. Like, I'm confident taking that 62.5. What I would be intrigued about, because Lamar Jackson, I know at the very least, Lamar Jackson is going to be in positions to run the football. The pocket's going to break down. The offensive line is going to collapse. Lamar's going to have to get out and do something. That's one scenario. Another is actual design plays that have Lamar Jackson bootlegging, running around, extending something, or, again, by design, moving the pocket so he can move himself and cause some issues for the defense. Or they're down big, and the Chiefs are sending a bunch of people trying to take advantage of that. Sack City by Spags. Let's just throw the kitchen sink and everything else we can at him. What's that going to do? That's going to cause Lamar Jackson to try and do more with his feet just to extend plays and extend drives, which is going to add for him. It's almost as if there are so many things pushing you to the over that you would just say, it's too obvious. It's too easy. There's nothing this easy. Nothing should come this easy from a bet. I don't know what to tell you. Other than that, other than just going opposite for the sake of being a contrarian and just saying no for the sake of saying no, I don't know what else to tell you. 62.5 seems like a real reasonable number for me for Lamar Jackson rushing the football. What I am intrigued on, and I'm tempted to play this, it does make it a little more interesting, but mainly just because of the return. Mahomes, and I'm looking at DraftKings specifically here. What are the odds Patrick Mahomes goes over 20 yards? Not likely. at Shander Show, twitch.tv/Shander Show. Monday Night Football, Chiefs and Ravens. As we get you ready, line change. John Jansen comes your way in 39 minutes. But looking at this briefly, Mahomes sits at 17.5. 17.5. Big payday on the under at plus 100. Minus 125 to go over 17. That could just be 18 to go over 17.5. But it's a big ask right there to lay the minus 125. We know that Mahomes doesn't run by choice. Very rare is the opportunity for Mahomes to do what Lamar Jackson does because not many people on the planet can do what Lamar Jackson does. But for Patrick Mahomes and that offense, he's way more of a statue than he is a guy who can move around. Now, he's got agility in the pocket. He's got presence in the pocket. And he does remind you of a more agile and more athletic guy like Brady, for example, who for years was very underrated in his ability to slide and move around. You don't need to be Carson Wentz, Aaron Rodgers, Cam Newton, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. You don't need to be any of these guys in order to just stay alive in the pocket. And Mahomes has done that without the speed of anybody that I just mentioned. So if, in fact, Mahomes goes for 20, 25, I mean, you could see like a broken play. Or you can see a situation where 5 split. It's like that old Madden play. I know you've all done this, especially when you've been called out for quick slanting people to death. Starting guard Andrew Wiley's out. Thanks, JCross_33 on Twitch. Twitch.tv/Shander Show. Starting guards out for the Chiefs. Even less now for me to believe that they're going to run a ton. Mahomes might be under some pressure. It might be even more difficult for him to move around. But there's not going to be any real designed runs for Patrick Mahomes. And outside of, and look at this, it's already been bet. It went from, what did I say, 110 or maybe 105, and now it's at plus 130. This is more than a beg. This is like a major favor. This is no longer them begging you to take this. This is a major favor that they're asking. I have to throw a unit on here. If you're watching, you can see live. We just put this unit on. Twitch.tv/Shander Show. Again, the stream where you can see we talk about stuff and we play stuff as well. And I went under. Plus 130. My goodness, plus 130. That's like puck line level return right there. And I went under because it's going to take a big play. And again, back to that Madden theory. Thanks again, JCross_33 for that nugget of information. But back to that Madden, it's like you had the 2 go-to plays, right? You're getting blown up by some 12-year-old kid on the stream, and you need to save some sort of face here before you rage quit and throw your controller across the room. So you quick slant until they start dropping linebackers back. All of a sudden, it's pretty difficult to do that. Well, you do have a quarterback that can move. I don't care who it is that you're playing with, as long as they have speed on them. Maybe you even moved a wideout or somebody like that to the quarterback position just to get an edge on this next strategy. But you split everybody, you 5 wide, there's nobody in the backfield, and you just send everybody on a go route. You go, everybody goes. And you hope that they don't have a spy on you, and you just go around the pocket and start running down the field. What a waste that would be with Patrick Mahomes. Maybe they do it once. But as soon as he starts moving, he doesn't have the speed to turn an 8-yard gain into a 20-yard gain unless you have a scenario like that, like a Hail Mary, where instead of throwing the football 60, 70 yards down the field, he decides to tuck it. Like, that's going to do me in right now. Watch. All right? I'll even predict my own downfall here. It's going to be the end of the first half. Chiefs have the ball on their own 38. 3rd and 8 with 2 seconds left. What the hell? You might as well just try it. 5 wide. Mahomes in the gun. Drops back, looking. Nothing except a ton of real estate. Gigantic amount of football turf to work with. What does he do? He tucks it. Now, it's the end of the half. There's no real, even the saliva that might be forming around the mouth of a defender, like, oh my goodness, like Homer Simpson. I get to knock this guy on his back. It's not going to be enough because it's the end of the half. All you need to do is get him down. He's not going to score from 62 yards out with his feet. And that's going to turn from an 8-yard gain, what should be just an 8-yard gain and a slide, into a 25-yard gain. And he's scamper out of bounds, and that's how the first half ends. And I'm sitting there looking around like, really? I couldn't even get to the third quarter with this bet. I love it. I love Mahomes under 17.5 to the point where I played it right here for you. Edwards-Helaire, do what you wish. You heard the news that we got from jcross_33 on Twitch. Running game should be impacted significantly. If you want to do a actual combination, rushing and receiving yards, it's below 100, so I think it's worth taking a look at. Below 100 right now for Clyde Edwards-Helaire, over or under 90.5. Now that's total rushing and receiving yards. It's worth a look at the over. He will be thrown to a ton, and he's the only guy that's going to get the ball consistently to run in the backfield. But how much is that going to be impacted by injuries to the front? To score 2 touchdowns. You know, starting to look at this as it gets bigger and bigger, and the odds become larger and larger. You try and find one of these bizarre, outlandish, plus 10,000 level bets. So best place for me to look at that would be Fox Bet. So I'm on the Fox Bet Sportsbook app, and I'm looking at tonight right now. Besides the boost, I don't count the boosts. The boosts are different because they're specific to whatever app you're looking at. But if you want to try and find like plus 8,500 and above, I don't know if you could even think about placing a bet like this. But again, it pays off plus 8,500. Edwards-Helaire, first TD. Marquise Hollywood Brown, last TD. You could go Marquise Brown, first TD. Mark Andrews, last TD. And that pays 10,500. These are long shots that you might sprinkle like a quarter of a unit on. It's an asking price that is through the roof for that level of return. But I will say, if you start to look at some that hover around, and you look at long shots for something like this, where they're these props, specific props to this game. It's not like a futures long shot where maybe there's more value than just plus 300. But for these individual games, I start to look at plus 300 as the cutoff, and then higher, plus 3, plus 4, plus 6. To where you can reasonably make a play. Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes, 300 plus passing yards each, is sitting at plus 600. Now, we told you what the breakdown was individually for these guys. This one is always difficult because the clock is never your friend, and you see it all the time where a drive, the quarter ends where there's a team that's like 1st and 10, and they run a play with 40 seconds left, and they're already in field goal range, or it's like 3rd and 10. Maybe that's a better example. 3rd and 10, they're in field goal range. They run the ball, clock runs out of the first quarter, and then the very first play of the second quarter is them kicking a field goal. And that's the difference between 3 points or no points. And it's way too tight in this game, in this league, for me to play this bet consistently. But plus 600 for both teams to score points in every quarter. Just trying to look and see if there was one that I could honestly convince you and me. It's together. It's a team unit here. It's not just me throwing wild, ridiculous, belligerent advice out there. This is bet down, and again, it's a low number at plus 187, which is pretty surprising. But each team, meaning both, have to do it. 2 touchdowns and 2 field goals minimum. You would think that both teams are capable. I'm more worried about the field goals, to be honest, at this point. I can see that bet busting rather easy because the field goals are the problem. Probably no issue at all to get touchdowns for both teams up and down the field. Now you start to look at the passing yards. Like, where can you corner a bet and feel good about? Each team 2 TDs and 1 field goals is down to minus 188. It's a lot right there to throw down for something that is pretty much guaranteed to happen. Mahomes, though, and this is where I think you can start to cheat a little bit, knowing that Patrick Mahomes is going to have a big night throwing the football. Gave you that Lamar and Mahomes prop. 250 plus is at plus 162. But Mahomes himself, and you can do this and really sprinkle it with both. And if you bet it right, if you bet it properly, you'll be able to get a good return to where it'll cancel it out and you can actually make something. But Mahomes going, both of these require Mahomes to go over 275 plus. Plus 110 with he going over 275 and Tyreek Hill going 75 plus, or plus 125 for Mahomes 275 plus and Travis Kelce 75 plus. Looking at it from that standpoint, you can pretty much hedge your bet and still make out if you place the right value down on both of those. Long shots, and these are, again, popular ones that are stretching from anywhere like 3,400 to 8,000. You have a couple that have snuck underneath that line. And I just hate to, I really do. I hate to tack these bets on where you need 3 people, multiple people to all score touchdowns. None of this stuff is a lock. Mark Andrews, Miles Boykin, and Tyreek Hill all to score TDs is plus 1,600, as is Hill, Kelce, and Watkins. It's way too much. You're risking so much by having multiple people having to score. Even still, like this bet here makes sense. Ravens win this football game. This is a pretty believable game script right here. Lamar Jackson goes over 275. Miles Boykin goes over 75. Mark Ingram goes over 75. And that's receiving yards for Boykin, rushing yards for Ingram. That's at plus 1,600. That's a decent bet right there to take from a long shot. Sprinkle a half or maybe a quarter unit on that. Are you going to go real big-time belligerent here and push this thing knowing that you can get some insane odds on a return? Mark Ingram, for example, there's so much of these big odds resting on Mark Ingram. Is it really a running back? Like, that's the ultimate contrarian play tonight. If you wanted to play this in a captain's league, for example, in a showdown, captain showdown DFS tournament tonight, where you wanted to look at what is the biggest contrarian play, it would be either Edwards-Helaire or Ingram as your captain. It would be a running backs night. It would actually be floating both of these guys in your lineup. And one of them, depending on who you think is going to win the game, as your captain. Not Patrick Mahomes, not Lamar Jackson, or Travis Kelce, or Marquise Brown, or even Mark Andrews, who could be a big target for scoring in the red zone and just in general. You would have to go ultra contrarian in order to play that out. And that would be the bet here as well. Now, again, you're looking at this with plus 3,400. That should be right there a pretty strong indication that this thing ain't going to hit. And you'd be lucky to land one of any of these that we've thrown out. Lucky to land one. I mean, these odds are insanely high. But I recognize at least there is a shot, and all I need are TDs. It doesn't matter how they come. But there's a pretty good shot that Edwards-Helaire is going to get 2 touchdowns. But again, think about how contrarian of a game script this would have to be to play out. Mark Ingram, 2+ TDs. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 2+ TDs. That return is as high as plus 3,400. No, sir. I'm good on that. If you want to squeeze one more in, one that makes some sense, one that you think you could realistically see no matter what the outcome is, and that's kind of where you need to find this middle ground, create this Venn diagram, if you will, of good odds that you get back on one circle, and something that makes sense, something that could actually happen in a football game, the other circle, and where the two come together is where you bet. Mark Ingram, again, so much. Like I just can't go into, I could live bet something with Mark Ingram, but I can't go into this football game tonight or any football game and put a ton on the shoulders of Mark Ingram, mainly because I don't think it's fair to him based on how these game scripts can change so drastically when it comes to what the Ravens do. Chiefs, you know exactly what's going to happen. There is very little scenario out there that you could create, forget find, but just create in your head that would have Clyde Edwards-Helaire outrunning Patrick Mahomes throwing the football. But we know that Edwards-Helaire is a huge part of the passing game. So this is the play right here. Ingram at 75 plus rushing and to score a touchdown is plus 250. That's the same for Andrews, 75 plus and to score a touchdown. I don't like either one of them. Too much is relying on Ingram in that game script that could change with the snap of the fingers. And also, the thing about Mark Andrews is he could get you 3 touchdowns for 50 yards. Targeted a ton. Targeted 8 times, get you 50 yards because there are short receptions, and those touchdowns are happening in the red zone. 8 yards, 6 yards, 4 yards. Those touchdowns add up. So I could see that where you have a game and a result where Andrews himself gets multiple touchdowns, but because of where he catches them, you're SOL. Stay away from it. See if, in fact, anything has truly changed. Now, Fox Bet has the total at 55. I'm not budging. The line is still at 3.5. The play, if you could work it into a parlay, would be the Ravens at minus 188. I honestly don't see how the Chiefs, I don't think, at least, the Chiefs come in and win this football game. I'm not shocked. And look, I'll give you the opinion right now. Play the Ravens, minus 188. But I'm not shocked if the Chiefs come in and win this game. I would be shocked if it goes under 55. Even if it's a late cover, which it probably will be, I can see that in true Monday night drive you mad fashion. I can see this thing 7-3 after 1. 14-6 after 2. 14, like I could see a 14-6 first half in which the Chiefs get 2 field goals, or maybe like a 14-7 is probably a better way. 14-7, 21 total points. What? What happened? What happened to this Chiefs offense? Panicking. 55. It's now down to like a live bet of 48, something like that. You better take that over. That's all I'll say. If you get that opportunity, you better turn around and take that over live. As soon as this thing drops, and maybe that's what you're waiting for, okay. But it's going to go over 55. It's going to go over 54.5. And it sure as hell is going to go over 48 when it drops after what I imagine will be a slow first quarter. And that's just, I think, what's going to happen. The NFL gets you back so many ways. The expectations are just usually the opposite of what happens early on. There's always a run. There's always something that'll kind of bring it back to normal. And I can see that happening, where it probably does take a full 3 quarters for this thing to hit over. Somewhere early in the fourth, it goes over, you exhale, and you just watch the end of what should be a good football game. At Shander Show, twitch.tv/Shander Show. Laid out a couple of strong ones there for you. You've got some really good value from quick ones that should be able to return rather fast and convenient to some big long shots. Ones that are going to get you plus 900 all the way up to plus 6,000. There's one more that we didn't mention that I purposely saved coming up. There's one more player prop, individual player prop, that's worth a mention before we get out of here. And also, as we will spend a lot more time on this Tuesday, we'll chat with our buddy Michael Calabrese on Wednesday. But some pretty big results, some pretty big upsets happened on Saturday that we cannot ignore. Because I don't know about you, and we'll touch on this when we came back, but it finally felt like college football arrived. What are the odds? Fox Sports Radio, The Gambler, presented by Cure Auto Insurance.
Fox Sports Radio, The Gambler. Now, total traffic for Philadelphia.
3:30.
Okay, thank you.
From
And
the
how
scoop of
long
the
is that
23,
next break?
Our
if you don't
crash
mind,
takes out the left
please?
lane, has 2:02 south.
4 minutes and 18 seconds.
Okay, and then the last one?
Approaching and exiting for 2:02. We've got a crash now on the eastbound.
3:35.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
Watch for an accident in South Jersey. This is Route 130 northbound in Haddon Township, Genup, between Collins Avenue and the White Horse Pike. Only the left lane gets by. Lara Tutela, total traffic.
This report is sponsored by CVS.
It's okay to do some things halfway.
but not when it comes to managing your prescriptions. That's why CVS has a tool designed to look for ways that may help lower your prescription costs. Visit CVS today. Savings vary. Not all patients eligible for savings. Ask pharmacist for details.
Hey, Eagles fans! Pepsi is now the official soft drink of your Philadelphia Eagles, and we're celebrating by giving fans like you a chance to win awesome Eagles prizes. Look for golden cans featuring Swoop in specially marked Eagles Pepsi 12 packs. Find one and you can score prizes like 2021 Sweet Tickets. Pepsi, made for football watching. Head into Wawa today to find the Pepsi Golden Swoop can before it flies off the shelves. Pepsi, the official soft drink of the Philadelphia Eagles. No purchase necessary. Open to residents of PA 18+. Subject to official rules. For rules and eligibility, visit madeforeaglesfootballwatching.com. Ends 11/9/2020. Void where prohibited.
Gridiron action is back. Parks Casino Sportsbook app, the home field advantage, based right here in the Delaware Valley. So many different ways to bet. Bet on player performances, halftime score, rushing yards. Bet on who scores first. Easy deposit. Great odds, outstanding customer service. Now use the promo code ENDZONE. Get a risk-free bet of up to $500. Yes, that's a risk-free bet of up to $500. Download the app or go to pa.parkscasino.com and use the promo code ENDZONE. Check the website for details. Must be 21 and in Pennsylvania. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Attention SSI and other federal benefit recipients. If you did not file a tax return last year and have children under 17, you must act now to get the $500 economic impact payment per child this year. You must provide the IRS your child's information by September 30th. Go to irs.gov and use the non-filer tool by September 30th. That's irs.gov. This message produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
Records, milestones, firsts, lasts, and everything in between. What happened today in sports history on iHeartRadio?
What's going on, fellow sports?
60 seconds.
Let's look back on this day in sports history, September 28th. We'll start off today in 1941. Ted Williams ends the baseball season with a .406 batting average. He wasn't the first player to end the season batting .400, but he definitely was the last. Mr. Williams was actually famously quoted, "I hope somebody hits .400 soon, then people can start pestering that guy with questions about the last guy to hit .400. Today in 1976, Muhammad Ali wins a unanimous 15-round decision over Ken Norton at Yankee Stadium to retain his world heavyweight title. This was the third and final time they'd fight. Ali won 2 of them. And today in 2008, Brett Favre throws a career-high 6 touchdown passes, 3 to Lavernius Coles, and the Jets took advantage of mistakes by Arizona in a 34-point second quarter, getting a 56-35 win over the Cardinals. Favre tied the Jets' record of 6 touchdown passes held by
5
in 1972.
Now you know, today in sports history on iHeartRadio.
You know, I'm trying to think right now, just based on what we've seen over the past couple of days, not only inside this city, and even the Sixers are under fire right now. They're not even playing. And there was this report that came out from, I guess, the Inquirer yesterday and then went national when people just caught wind of it about Ben and Joe not getting along. And we know the coaching search. Not one soul has been fired in the front office. Meanwhile, Doc Rivers was fired before anybody in the Sixers front office. That tells you everything you need to know about what's going on with the Sixers. The Flyers look great before they were just chased out of the playoffs by the Islanders. Still not necessarily a better team, but they took care of business, and you could see the heart, not Carter Hart, but the actual heart, the organ, was missing at times with the Flyers, and they undid themselves. Power play, their technical things that they just could not get going, and credit the Islanders for taking advantage of everything. We saw JT Realmuto most likely play his last game as a Philly yesterday on Sunday over the weekend. And it was gut-wrenching knowing that they made a trade, and the guy that it was for 2 years, and the guy that they dealt Realmuto for is starting in the playoffs. Oh, and by the way, Gabe Kapler, I mean, all these things that happened where Major League Baseball was just not kind to the Philadelphia Phillies, despite this being such a ridiculously short year. And look, I know that both Gabe and Joe fell short, but it was the fact that they were so close and actually finished the game better overall than the Phillies did. And then we have the Eagles, where Carson Wentz looks like he has the yips. That Carson Wentz is a guy on tour, a golfer on tour. We've seen this with men and women on tour where they've been really good to near dominant to actually dominant, doing something. And then next thing you know, you're looking up like, what the hell happened? How did she fall coming in projected to be one of the odds on, and then you slowly start to see that tournament in, tournament out. For 3 straight weeks, if you see somebody miss a 7 or 8 foot putt that they normally slam down, you can start to raise concerns. For 3 or 4 straight weeks, which might be 4 coming up against San Francisco, if we see the same issues and mistakes made, mental and then physical mistakes made by Carson Wentz, then you have every right to continue to raise the alarm for concern. That's the exact same scenario playing out with the whole thing with the yips. So what could be the biggest kick in the gut, all of this, I mean, think about everything that I just laid out. Everything at all that I just laid out. What could be the biggest kick in the gut is that Matt Klentak reportedly coming back. I don't even know if people are ready or are psychologically ready for this. Shame on this coming out the day after the Philadelphia Phillies tie the Bengals and fall to 0-2, or I guess technically improve to 0-2-1, knowing that we are such a fragile fan base right now. Awful. All right, we'll hear from John Jansen, who comes your way coming up in 12 minutes on the line change. Coming up next, see what he has going on. And also, hopefully you've noticed a little change, an aesthetic change, courtesy of Deja, our producer. We'll talk about that before we get out of here as well. What are the odds? Fox Sports Radio, The Gambler, presented by Cure Auto Insurance.
Dan Patrick, 9 to noon.
Brett Brown joins us.
Colin Cowherd from New.
All right, so now we're back.
Sixers are amazing.
We'll have about 5 minutes or so, right?
Sean Brace from 3 to 6 p.m.
When we're back.
Only one place you can find that.
All ears to it.
Right here on
57. You can get out at 57.
57?
Yep.
Yeah, but we're back, what, in 3?
I'm sorry, 3 minutes and 50 seconds.
Okay.
So, yep.
Look for golden cans featuring Swoop in specially marked Eagles Pepsi 12 packs. Find one and you can score prizes like 2021 sweet tickets. Pepsi, made for football watching. Head into Wawa today to find the Pepsi Golden Swoop can before it flies off the shelves. Pepsi, the official soft drink of the Philadelphia Eagles. No purchase necessary. Open to residents of PA 18+. Subject to official rules. For rules and eligibility, visit madeforeaglesfootballwatching.com. Ends 11/9/2020. Void where prohibited.
Gridiron action is back. Parks Casino Sportsbook app, the home field advantage, based right here in the Delaware Valley. So many different ways to bet. Bet on player performances, halftime score, rushing yards. Bet on who scores first. Easy deposits, great odds, outstanding customer service. Sign up now and use the promo code ENDZONE. Get a risk-free bet of up to $500. Yes, that's a risk-free bet of up to $500. Download the app or go to pa.parkscasino.com and use the promo code ENDZONE. Check the website for details. Must be 21 and in Pennsylvania. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
We all know the importance of voting, but you can't vote if you aren't registered. Check your registration status with Global Citizen and HeadCount to make sure you're ready for this year's election. Visit globalcitizen.org/justvote to check your status and enter to win experiences with rewards from your favorite artists, such as an exclusive never-before-seen performance with Dave Matthews, signed swag from Billie Eilish, a virtual hang with Lenny Kravitz, a Taylor Swift autographed guitar, and more. Visit globalcitizen.org/justvote to learn more and check your registration status today.
That is a pretty good breakfast. You're not even eating.
Not already.
Why not? What's up?
Kath and I knew that Jenny had been partying a bit. Found out she tried heroin.
Most people don't know what to say about drugs, but we do. Visit us at drugfree.org. A message from the Partnership for Drug-Free Kids, where families find answers.
And now a game of Commercial Chicken, brought to you by Progressive, where we see how long Flo can go without talking about insurance. Ready? Go.
So, traffic has been crazy lately, right?
And rush hour? Forget it. Nobody wants to let you merge onto the highway. But hey, somebody let you merge or you wouldn't be there. So drivers who switch to Progressive could save big.
Okay, you win. We can't help but save customers money. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
You know when you gotta be somewhere, it's like really urgent. You don't want to do it over the phone. Some things just can't be said with an LOL or an OMG. Some things just need to be done IRL. So you get in your Nissan Altima and drive. Feel the VC turbo engine instantly react to give you more power and efficiency, so you can get where you need to go.
60 seconds.
Hey, Eric. What are you doing here?
Like
Huh?
your social post. I liked it.
Oh, thank you. There's a button for that, right?
I do.
The Nissan Altima, now offering the most tech-advanced engine in its class. This is tech that helps you be there. This is Nissan Intelligent Mobility. Auto-Pacific segmentation. 2020 Altima Platinum versus latest in-market competitors in the premium midsize class. Available feature. World's first production variable compression turbo engine launched by Nissan Motor Company Limited in 2018.
iHeartRadio is the #1 choice for music, radio, and podcasts, all in one. No one makes it easier to hear everything you love in one free app.
I got podcasts, my music, and my radio stations all together.
You can download podcasts right to your phone. Every time I finish a podcast, there's this recommendation.
10 seconds.
I love this app because it's all in one place.
If you're not one of the tens of millions who have the app, download iHeartRadio for free today and start listening.
iHeartRadio.
All right, we only have a couple of minutes left here before we hand things over to John Jansen tonight for the line change, which comes your way 8 o'clock right here on Fox Sports Radio, The Gambler. And we'll also tweet out as soon as I get it, maybe like a note or whatever is going to be the best, like the most photogenic thing to tweet out there. We have our updated playlist. So first off, John, I don't know if you're familiar with, and you have been working after me and alongside me and before me whenever you are on with Sean, or in for Sean, which seems to be a lot because you grind and you love what you do. And I love that about you, brother. And you know how, like, I would never do this with Rob. I would never hand the music over blindly to Rob because I don't trust him. So this was a major step for me. And when it comes to just trusting another human being with, of all things, music, like music and pizza are two things that I admit I'm snobs about. And I just, I don't trust anybody. So Deja now has full control of the music on this show.
That's a good idea. That's a very good idea.
Thank you. I'll take full credit for it.
I'm one that needs that as well because I know I listen to things that people don't. So I know that I should not be choosing my music for the show. My show, all of the music I play, I listen to some of it, but most of it I don't. I know, okay, it sounds good. It'll be great for radio. I can't play my death metal stuff that I listen to. I can't do it.
Oh my god, death! I thought I was bad with like Mobb Deep. And
I listen to a lot of metal.
Wu-Tang,
but is my favorite band, and they started out as a death metal band.
Okay, well, at least I could get away with playing some Wu-Tang. I don't think you could get away with death
that's
metal.
What I mean, I can't. That's why I can't choose my own music. So I wish I had somebody like Deja around to do that for me because it would sound a lot better.
Well, see, this is it, Deja. I think if you found a calling, at least on this station, which is the makeup. We talked about this last week, right? This is an audio makeover. Like I'm coming in looking like a slob and I need help to look professional, but we're doing this with audio. Like this could be a way, and I'd charge the hell out of everybody too, but this could be a calling here where you can now correct everybody's music taste when it comes to their shows.
Hey, I'm down for it.
Our shows would have a lot more flair and swagger if that happened because mine just wouldn't. Like nobody wants to listen to Creed coming into a show.
Yeah, you seem to be. I don't know what it is, but you are now synonymous with Creed.
Yeah. Oh, I've been a big Creed fan my entire life. Mostly because I like the other band that the guys all went to, but I ended up liking Creed a lot. So. Well,
would you at least take some help if offered by Deja? Because she's done a great. Like tonight, the show flowed. It sounded much better than my time warp of 2001, KRS One yelling in somebody's ear. It sounded smooth. Like, would you at least accept the idea?
I would.
Okay.
I would, because Deja has her pulse on the mainstream.
Well, that's
things and
the
what's
point.
happening, like pop
Yes,
culture.
I
Because
don't.
A lot of the songs I was hearing from your show that Deja was playing are from like TikTok videos I've heard before.
Oh, really?
See?
Yeah, I feel. Yeah, definitely.
Look at that. That is proof positive that what we're doing on this show, Deja, is working. If not only does John Jansen, of all people, Mr. Death Metal, of all people, recognize, but it's where he's recognizing it from. So day one was a resounding success.
Perfect. There we go.
It
All
was
right.
weird you call me Mr. Death Metal because I listen to both Slayer and Creed, and it's a really weird mix in my iPod.
Well, you
Very
said
weird.
death metal. I didn't coin
No, I
that.
do. It's just very weird to be called Mr. Death Metal, but also be the guy that's known as Creed. So
Look at that.
it's weird.
Oh, look at this. I actually have a cool graph. Did you create this?
Yes, I did.
My goodness. See, on top of having this is awesome. I do feel like one of those, not contestants, but one of those people who have been made over. Sometimes you only get it like an 8-minute, right? I feel like the person on the Ellen show that gets made over and, you forget about her. And then all of a sudden at the end of the show, they're like, and let's bring Marjorie back out. And all of it, Marjorie's beaming. She's smiling. She's radiant. I feel radiant right now. This is great. All right. John Jansen comes away at the top of the hour. Thank you, Deja, producing the show and for running the 1 and 2s. We'll put the show playlist up on Twitter. Enjoy. We're back on a Tuesday following the Rodney McLeod show. So we're on 7 to 9 Tuesday, Fox Sports Radio, The Gambler, presented by Cure Auto Insurance.
It's Green Legion Radio, Thursdays from 7 to 9.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Great stuff. Hey, I'm sorry. One more time. What's your Twitter? I want to make sure I tag you.
Oh, I can text it to you. I was going to tweet it too, if that's okay.
Oh, of course. You can tweet it and I can quote it, whatever you want. Just tag me.
All right, cool. I'll tweet it now.
Awesome. Thank you. This was great. All right. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Outside of running